Good morning. Today we are also trying a new thing. You can say it's kind of experiment. So we're trying to play all the musics with the guitar and auto harp. Now I remember the name of the instrument. And I hope you to expect how the music will become more various and beautiful, so that will also help us to bring us to this place of worship and to build a relationship with God. I'm going to read you the welcome message. You are welcome to come just as you are and be met by God, who knows you by name, who loves you and wants to have an ever closer relationship with you. God made us who we are, and all of us are children of God. To people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, racial and ethnic backgrounds, ages and physical mental abilities, economic and family status, we welcome and affirm you. We are all on a spiritual journey and want all to feel included here. Amen. I have some announcements. Today at 2 to 4 p.m. in the first UMC there will be a lecture for about communication with people who have different political stances. So you will watch a documentary named Purple, and then we'll train train communication skills and discuss about it. So I think that will be very helpful for us, because there are always people who have different thoughts, different beliefs, different political stances, and sometimes that causes some conflicts, and sometimes it's not easy to communicate with people, with different people. But this lecture, I believe, will be helpful to build communications and relationship with others. So I recommend you to participate in. And after the service, I hope you to look at the mirror there. There is a poster from the New Beginning. So they sell raffles, and for sure this is for a good purpose. And if you want to know about details, you can go there and read all things in the poster, or you can ask Diane, she might know more. Oh yeah, she has tickets. What a good news. So you might know more than me, but New Beginnings are using this money for good purposes. So I hope you will read the poster, and if you're able, please buy some raffles and support people who need help. Okay, and any joys or concerns or prayers? Yeah.
Great joy that Mark is here.
Uh-huh.
Christina made it safely from Florida, 24/7 hours a day. And we're thunderstorms and lightning in the truck, they were driving at least. But they made it safe, and they are now back.
Good, good. Thank you for sharing. And another joys, concerns? Yes, Chris.
I'd just like to say that we had our open mic last night, and we had 5 performers and 9 people that listened. So I think it was a good step, and we hope to have another one in the spring.
And that was one of my joys, that you organized it, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was also here yesterday, and the music was so beautiful, and the stories also. I thank you, Chris and Terry, and especially Jim. He made us a very romantic moment. So if you want to know what I'm saying, so you have to come here next spring. Did you say spring? Yeah. Wow. Are you doing an encore? Yeah, but we will have more beautiful musics and romantic moments, I believe. So it was really good, and so it will be very good if you can join next time. Yeah.
And there was cookies and lemonade after church.
Yeah, there are cookies and lemonades.
Stop, and we hadn't had refreshments in a long time, so have fun.
I just asked for continued prayers for a friend in Nebraska who was in a very severe car accident a couple weeks ago. She's had to undergo a lot of surgeries yet. She'll be there. She has a lot of broken bones, facial, legs, all over her. She broke arms, legs. She's kind of a last stretch. She's hanging in there, and she's fighting. So continued prayers from our God.
Yeah, continue prayers.
From the area, grew up and graduated in the class of 89.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, please pray for her. And I have 2 prayer request sheets. The first one is from Mel. We'll be going to, it's a joy, I think. It's a joy, right? We'll be going to lunch with my Benoit cousins today. Congratulations. And a prayer. Jen C., neighbor, had surgery for cancerous mass in her head. So she will most likely need chem and radiation. Chem and radiation, right? Okay, so let's pray for Jen. And this is from Terry. I think you already. Oh, this Terry. Sorry. So you're Terry with a Y and I. Okay. Thanks for Chris and in organizing open mic. Much fun. So she already said that, but again. And a prayer is for Carol Batten and her family. Her husband Scott passed away last Wednesday with brain cancer. So
He's been on our prayer. They've been on our prayer.
Yeah. So I hope you to remember Carol and her family, and please pray for her loss. And I also have a prayer request. It's not a personal one, but I got a news that around 300 refugees arrived in Chicago. I made some research where they're coming from, and the story was very sad. They entered to Texas, Florida, Arizona, that kind of places in northern areas, and they were not welcome, and this government forced them to leave to Chicago or DC or New York and other places. So there are also very old people and even very young people in them. And it's so sad that they are not welcome. So it's hard for us to meet them directly, physically, but I hope you to pray for them and have a welcome mind in your heart for them. And any other joys? Yeah, Mark.
This is a question. Is UMC, Elkhorn, anybody doing anything, collecting anything for the refugees people?
Not sure, but I will make some research and let you know. Yeah.
I'd like to say happy anniversary to Carol and Red Hansen. Today's their anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary. Oh, I missed this. Sorry. Happy anniversary. It's today.
It's today.
And Betty and Richard's anniversary is at September 21st. And Betty's birthday is also September 23rd. So all 57 years. Wow. Wow. It's a lot. Congratulations. Do you usually also sing a congratulatory song for anniversaries? Or? Oh. Wow.
Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary, Red and Carol. Happy anniversary to you.
I hope you'll have a happy and meaningful day today. Okay, would you all stand up and let's begin to worship by ringing the bell.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please read with me responsively the call to worship. Come, let us worship the one who calls us here.
We gather to worship with joy and in hope.
Come, let us worship the one who desires our hearts.
We bring our whole selves in worship to our God.
Come, let us set aside all that distracts us from true worship.
We come as we are and ask the Spirit to
Gather us in and direct our vision.
Come, let us worship the one who calls us here.
We are here to worship with all that we are.
Our first hymn is Seek Ye First in the Red Book, number 405.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ask and it shall be given unto you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Please join me in our call of confession. First of all, everlasting God, we must confess how we have not lived as your people. We serve as many masters, work, wealth, power, addictions, yet find no hope in them. We hear the cries of the poor and shut the doors of our hearts to them. We ridicule those who expose their hopes and dreams to us. Forgive us, compassion's heart, and heal us of our brokenness. Make us well so that by our healing we might be the hope and love others need in their lives, even as Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, brought these gifts to us, calling us to be faithful with the grace, peace, and joy entrusted to us.
You may be seated and let us continue to pray with silence of our hearts. Now that we have let go of the pain, the bitterness, the anger of our lives, let us be kind, tender-hearted, and gentle towards each other, forgiving as God has forgiven us. We are God's beloved children and will model God's grace and love in our hearts. Thanks be to God, we are forgiven. Amen.
Our scripture reading this morning is from Luke 16, verses 1 through 13. Jesus said to his disciples, "There was once a rich man who had a manager. He got reports that the manager had been taking advantage of his position by running up huge personal expenses. So he called him in and said, 'What's this I hear about you? You're fired, and I want a complete audit of your books.' The manager said to himself, 'What am I going to do? I've lost my job as a manager. I'm not strong enough for a laboring job, and I'm too proud to beg. I've got a plan. Here's what I'll do. Then, when I'm turned out into the street, people will take me into their houses.' Then he went at it. One after another, he called in the people who were in debt to his master. He said to the first, 'How much do you owe my master?' He replied, 100 jugs of olive oil. The manager said, 'Here, take your bill. Sit down here. Quick now, write 50. To the next he said, 'And you, what do you owe?' He answered, 100 sacks of wheat. He said, 'Take your bill and write 80. Now here's a surprise. The masters praised the crooked manager. And why? Because he knew how to look at himself. Streetwise people are smarter in this regard than law-abiding citizens. They are on constant alert, looking for angles, surviving by their wits. I want you to be smart in the same way, but for what is right, using every adversity to stimulate you to creative survival, to concentrate your attention on the bare essentials so you'll live, really live, and not complacently just get by on good behavior. Jesus went on to make these comments. If you're honest in small things, you'll be honest in big things. If you're a crook in small things, you'll be a crook in big things. If you're not honest in small jobs, who will put you in charge of the store? No worker can serve two bosses. He'll either hate the first and love the second, or adore the first and despise the second. You can't serve both God and the bank.
Our second hymn, excuse me. Our second hymn is 2248, Baptized in Water, in the Faith We Sing hymnal, which is the black one, or on the screen. And stand if you're able.
In water, sealed by the Spirit, cleansed by the blood of Christ the King, heirs of salvation, trusting His promise, faithfully now. In water, sealed by the Spirit, dead in the tomb of Christ the King, one with His rising, freed for forgiven, thankfully now. In water, sealed by the Spirit, marked with the sign of Christ our King, born of one Father, we are His children, joyfully now.
I feel like I'm sharing a story in a concert, so thank you very much for this beautiful music. When we first experience something, there are times when it becomes a special memory. I also have the kind of memories. My first preaching experience remains a special memory for me, but sadly, it wasn't a good or gracious experience. There was when I was just a freshman after entering the seminary. I was a Sunday school teacher at that time, and because I was a seminarian, I supported the children's ministry pastor's job. The text of my first sermon was one of the sermons that Jesus gave on the mountain to be the light and salt of the world, which is in Matthew chapter 5, verses 6 to 13. I believe most of you might aware of this scripture reading. I included in my sermon what it means to be light and salt for children, because it was a children's sermon, and specifically what children can practice to become light and salt. And because it was my first sermon, the pastor supervised me for this. She wanted to give me some advices. I brought my written sermon to her, and after reading it, she asked me a question. What's the difference between Bible and ethics textbooks? What's the difference between faith and morality? She pointed out that the content of my sermon is, after all, just a moral lesson, but not a preaching of gospel. So that means it was just about morality, not faith. I couldn't answer this question, and she asked me to think. She wanted me to think about the answer and revise the sermon. At the time, I was not theologically ready enough to answer this question, and I expected her just to tell me the answer, but she didn't. So in the end, I couldn't revise the sermon, and I had to preach the just moral lesson preaching. In fact, many Christians are not as good at distinguishing morality with faith as we think. They live a moral life and misunderstand that it is a religious life. I don't mean morality or ethics is not important for living a religious life, but a moral life is not the same with a religious life. Today's reading conflicts with what Jesus usually says. He said that even if you're told by the people of the world that you are foolish, don't mind it and take on the role of light and salt. But in this text, he says the opposite. He told us to emulate the crooked manager that deceived his master. It's not easy for us to understand what wants to tell us through this narrative. Jesus' parable begins with this. There was once a rich who had a manager. The rich entrusted all the advantage of his position by running up huge personal expenses to the manager. One day he heard a bad rumor that the manager was wasting his property. Now he had to decide what to do with the manager. It wouldn't be that simple. He had to make sure if the rumors are true or not. And even if it was true, he had to decide to judge how serious the manager's fault is. And even if the manager needs to be fired, he has to find someone who can replace the manager. But as I said, he got a lot of authority, so it wasn't easy to replace. The text doesn't provide us details, but just says the landlord decided to fire the manager. For the manager who was in a situation where he would become unemployed overnight, it was an urgent task to find another job first. However, because he was fired for misconduct and his reputation fell to the ground, he was unable to get another job elsewhere. All he could do was laboring. In the text, there is a complaint saying, "I'm not strong enough for a laboring job." Maybe it was because he lived too long as a manager, or because he was too old to have the ability to do it. Then the last way left is to beg for it. But he was too proud to do it. He found a completely different solution for his problem. He tried to build relationships with people so that they will greet him when he resigns from his position. He called in the people who were in debt to his master. The first person owed 100 jugs of olive oil, and the manager wrote 50 on the bill. The second person owes 100 sacks of wheat, and he discounted it to 80. This act that he did secretly by his master would cause enormous damage to the owner. However, surprisingly, the master praised the crook manager when he saw it. It's hard to understand. Does it make sense that the crook manager was praised even he wasted the master's property again? At the end of this parable, Jesus said the following conclusive words: "Streetwise people are smarter in this regard than law-abiding citizens." What does this mean? Does it mean that we, like the secular people, should live in order not to lose anything in the world by rolling our brains? Sometimes there are some Christians who think like this: is it okay that believers be less successful than those who do not believe? The word success here is not a religious term, but a thoroughly secular one, so wealth and honor. There are also many preachers who preach explicitly encouraging people to live with that in mind. They rationalize a life in which people pursue their worldly desires based on this text praising the crook manager. It doesn't make sense to try to interpret this story from an ethical point of view, because this is about religious principle, not ethical standards. Forging documents is clearly unethical, but that's not the point what Jesus wanted to teach us. I don't mean that Jesus didn't regard ethical perspectives, but in this teaching, he didn't want to talk about ethics, but about God and the kingdom of God. What we need to pay attention to in this story is why the crook manager did this. He thought that if he was kicked out of his position, those who had a good relationship with him would welcome him. He wanted to prepare his future best in his situation. Jesus' words in verse 9 and below show once again why this is important. So the first part of this scripture reading is the parable, and from verse 9 and below are the explanations, Jesus' explanations about it. Let's see what Jesus explained first parable in verse 9 in the NRSV translation. "And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of dishonest wealth, so that when it's gone, they may welcome you into the eternal homes." The description of this story is slightly different in parables and explanations. Only a few words look different, but the meaning is actually crucially different. In the parable, the crook manager simply expected people to welcome to their home. But in this explanation, after verse 9, Jesus said they may welcome him into the eternal homes. A simple home is just a daily life, but an eternal home is a religious dimension. So this difference is also evident in the description of property. The manager used worldly wealth to prepare for his future, and Jesus added to that, talking about the true riches. According to the Lutheran Bible translation, these two properties are extremely opposites. The secular wealth was translated as ungerechte Mammon, which means dishonest mammon. And the true riches was translated as das wahre Gut, which means something good. The word mammon means treating money as God, so believing money, following money. Yes, Jesus is not talking about success in this world. He is talking about God and the kingdom of God. Just as the crook manager did his best to people who will greet him when he loses everything, we should do our best to do to the one who will accept everything when we lose everything. For the manager to lose his job is to lose everything. There are times when we're in a situation where everything we've worked on in our lives goes up in smoke. These don't guarantee our future. There's a Korean saying that a tiger will leave leather when it dies, but a person, a human being will leave a name when he or she dies. But in reality, a name doesn't mean anything. God is the only one who will welcome us to our eternal home after death. If you're serious about Christianity, you'll agree with the explanation so far. However, you may think that the verses make friends for yourselves by means of dishonest wealth so that when it's gone, or if then you have not been faithful with the dishonest wealth, who will entrust to you the true riches, are difficult to agree with and understand. I said above that the wealth of the world is an unjust mammon. Wealth is mammon, and mammon is injustice. How could a world in which money, neither God nor human are the purpose, be unjust? Jesus' word to make friends with dishonest wealth is to return, means to return it to its original place. So wealth as a tool, but not a purpose. Wealth is something to be consumed, not worshipped. To be faithful to wealth means to treat wealth as just wealth. This wealth doesn't just refer to money. That means what our desires pursue. The Bible refers to such things as idolatry, Baal worship, and mammonism. We need to get those things back in place now. What's really important to us is to have a true relationship with a friend who will receive us when we lose everything, which is Jesus Christ. As the parable points out today, our current lives need to be fully invested in this, like the crook manager who has been laid off by a rich man. We've often heard of focusing on the true relationship with Jesus Christ. What do we have to do specifically for this? It's true that worshiping well, reading the Bible regularly, and being a virtuous person are important for us, but these are not the ultimate goals of faith. It's the result of life and attitude that appears to someone who knows something much more important at the root. What's even more important at the root is the attitude of life that focuses on the very moment we lose everything, just like the manager did. We must be filled with thoughts about the very moment when nothing in the world, no one else will protect or welcome us. Of course, a person who lives in this way pays all his or her soul to God, to the Lord of the moment. With that attitude, we worship to God and build relationship with others. Jesus says, you can't serve both God and the bank. Just as a servant cannot serve two masters. He or she who has become a slave of wealth and desire doesn't and cannot think of God who will greet us at the moment of loss of everything. Many may claim that desires will make our life successful, but the Bible never says so. On the contrary, the Bible teaches us to fully focus on our relationship with God, who will give us eternal life, not money. We are like the crook manager of today's reading, which we are about to lay down. He gave his whole soul to a friend who would greet him when he lost everything. This friend, Jesus Christ, is waiting for you, and his door is always open for us. There's nothing in the world that means anything to us other than strengthening our relationship with Jesus Christ. Let us pray. Lord, your words tell us that there's great good in godliness combined with contentment. That as we brought nothing into this world, so we can take nothing out of it. Help us, dear Lord, to be content with what we have, to seek heavenly treasures rather than those things of this world which rust corrodes and moths consume. Grant that we might be people who share the wealth that you have provided, that we might be ones who share both the bread and wine of earth and the bread and wine of heaven. O God, bind your people together and make us bright and shining witnesses to your compassion and your grace as they are revealed in the law and the prophets and in Christ Jesus, the one you raised from the dead. Here too, we pray the petitions and the intercessions of our hearts for those who lost in sin, in despair, for those who need healing, and for those who seek to serve as Jesus served. We ask these things and we give you our thanks and praise and our minutes and our days through Jesus Christ our Lord, who taught us to pray as one family, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Let us give thanks to God.
We will sing the doxology. It's the words printed in your bulletin.
Praise God on whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, the creatures here below. Praise Him above, ye heavenly hosts.
Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Amen. Let us pray. Lord, we got up this morning, ate our breakfast, got dressed, and came to church, all to give you praise and thanksgiving. May these gifts be a blessing for those who had no bed this morning from which to arise, for those who had no breakfast and are hungry this day, for those who have no new clothes, for those who have lost their homes, and for those who are not welcomed, for those who long to worship you but cannot. Take these gifts and use them as you will. Amen. Let us sing together, I'm Gonna Live So God Can Use Me, which is in the Black Book, 2153.
Anywhere or anytime, I'm gonna
gonna pray so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm gonna pray so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm gonna sing so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm gonna sing so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. Amen. Before the benediction, I want to thank Kristen Terry again. It's not easy to prepare the music without a piano. And the choir will coming back at the end of this month. So if you want to join the choir and want to make our worship more fruitful, please join. So everyone are welcome, right?
We are rehearsing this week at 6:45 on Thursday, and we'll warm up at 9 o'clock Sunday morning.
So you are all welcome.
And we will sing next week.
Okay, let us pray. Friends, our worship continues even as we leave this moment. Friends, we have gathered in joy to sing and pray and hear God's word. We have come as friends, called friends by the Christ we follow. And now we are sent out into the world to make friends. Let us be about the business we have been given. Let us go with God. Amen. Let us sing, Come, We That Love the Lord, which is in United Methodist Hymnal 732. We will sing just the first verse as the benediction response.
We love the Lord,
And let our joys be known. Join in a song with sweet accord, and thus around the throne.